How's it going, everybody? This is my video on how cocaine killed the coca plant. It started with the Incas thousands of years ago, who used it primarily as a hunger suppressant and fatigue suppressant, and it was also very popular for combating the effects of altitude sickness. As time went on, the medical uses for the coca plant expanded into it being used for headaches, rheumatism, wounds, sores, and even anesthetic before more powerful ones were invented. The Incas would activate the healing properties of the coca plant by using ground up limestone, which they would apply to the coca plant in order to get its beneficial effects. On the left is a traditional Inca coca leaf chewer, and it just kind of depicts the lime vessel they would use and the spatula that they would use in consuming coca leaves. Obviously, coca is not safe in all forms. There's coca paste, which is mashed up coca leaves, there's cocaine, and then there's patillo, which is coca paste and tobacco combination. It causes feelings of euphoria, hallucinations. It can be very highly addictive, cause anxiety, and if smoked too much, you can die. And if someone is about to overdose on patillo, it's recommended that they drink alcohol because it reverses the negative effects of patillo. And as a result, patillo and alcohol go hand in hand for patillo smokers in Latin America. The spiritual uses of coca leaves were mainly in offerings to the Apuas, the Inti, or the Pachamama, which are the mountains, the sun, or the earth. Coca leaves are also used for spiritual readings, just like how tea leaves are used for spiritual readings in other cultures. Looking at the economics surrounding the coca plant, it becomes apparent why the plant is so popular as a cash crop. Because in 1982 and 1983, Bolivia is going through a depression and a drought, and the coca plant was able to grow in really tough soil, was resistant to blight and pests, have a really long life, and it was inexpensive to grow. For example, every 2.2 acres of coca plant yielded $9,000 in profit to the farmer, whereas the next highest cash crop was citrus, and that only earned $500 for 2.2 acres as well. What this increase in profit translated to was an increase in wages for the workers. Specifically, it was 6 times more profitable for a worker to work in a cocoa field than any skilled or unskilled position in a rural area. And the workers in cocoa fields even made more than workers in urban areas. Because workers realized they could make more money in the cocoa fields, there was a huge migration away from traditional food production in order to become a pisadores, which translates directly to a cocoa crusher. Because there were so many of these cocoa crushers, there was a shortage of traditional food production, and it resulted in a negative GDP from 1980 to 1986. So what the food production industry had to do was actually import food that they had traditionally produced in Bolivia, but because of the absence of workers, they just couldn't anymore. And it eventually resulted in the rise of food prices during this time period. The coca leaf is very popular with the local Bolivian population, but as the pursuit for profit in the coca leaf industry increased, the quality and quantity of coca leaves found in local markets decreased dramatically. This is because farmers would rather sell their crop to traffickers who paid them a premium for their coca leaves, whereas if they sold it to the local Bolivians, they wouldn't be earning as much money. And the tragic thing you start to see happening from this process is that even though coca leaves have been around and used by Incan populations for thousands of years, ever since the separation of cocaine from the coca leaf by Albert Niemann in the 1800s, the cultural association with the plant is starting to disappear. Also during this time, it's really the peasants who are taking most of the punishment from the expansion of the cocoa industry. And even though the wages for the workers had increased, the living conditions and working conditions hadn't seen the same elevation and quality. On the surface, it may have seemed like the working conditions had increased because the farm executives would give the pisadores alcohol, cocoa paste, They'd give them good meals and play regional music for them. But really the motive behind this was to get the workers addicted to coca paste, and in hopes that they would just trade their labor in exchange for coca paste. These factory executives were also dumping the chemical waste from their plant into local streams and irrigation ditches, which resulted in the death of livestock and the killing of crops. It's also important to remember that during this whole process, coca leaf production and cocoa paste production are illegal in Bolivia, and even if it's government mandated, there's no tax generated from the production. And what taxes could have done is create better living situations for the workers who make the crop by implementing clean water systems, electricity, and indoor plumbing. An average tax rate applied to the production of coca leaves would result in a $500,000 annual increase in government spending, which they could then use to provide these services and make the living conditions of these workers better. Other problems that arise from the production of coca leaves is that the leaders of these cartels and the executives are able to pay off government officials, whereas the majority peasants are not able to, and it results in overcrowding of jails. Because of the increased international demand for coca leaves and cocoa paste, you also see an increase in arms trading, illegal arms trading, in order to protect your plant from other cartels that would come and take your product. And as a result, the coca leaf production, a once peaceful establishment, is now surrounded by violence and causes hundreds of deaths every year. Plan Colombia was a United States aid package aimed at the Colombian counter-narcotics trend, specifically the production of cocaine from coca leaves. Ever since its creation in 1999, Plan Colombia has used aerial pesticide sprays as its main way of combating the coca leaf production. Over the last 16 years, Plan Colombia has cost the United States over $8 billion, and there's really not much to show for the progress we've made over the last 16 years. In last year alone, Colombia increased its cocoa production by 39%. Next, I'm going to show you a clip from a movie, Plan Colombia, Cashing In on the Drug War Failure, and it just points out some of the general flaws that are associated with Plan Colombia during the last 16 years.
Los campesinos,
the peasants are the unwilling participants in this process. Unwilling in the sense that they live in abandoned areas, areas where there are no signs of a state, when there is no economic opportunities other than growing coca, and that's what they live off.
It makes a lot of economic sense for campesinos to grow coca because they can convert coca into coca paste on their farm in a small crude lab. And the middlemen, the traffickers, will come to the farm or to the nearest small town, and they will buy the coca paste and pay them cash and take it away for them. Now, the heart of U.S. policy requires that these campesinos grow hundreds of kilos of so-called legal crops instead.
Tenemos que pensar en el mercadeo, de que quién nos va a comprar.
We have to think in terms of the market.
Que salgan.
Who is going to buy the produce we make on our farms?
Porque si nosotros producimos,
because if we produce something that nobody wants to buy, then it would be the same thing as not having to produce in the first place.
Nos daría la misma que no tener nada.
But the problem is, we're asking these people to grow, hundreds of kilos of yucca and plantains and pineapples and other things that they have to haul to transport on vehicles they don't have, on roads that don't exist, to sell in markets, both internal and export, they don't have access to, and to compete against an international global economy, international agribusiness, against which they don't stand a chance. So this is not a formula for success in terms of alternative development.
Funding for so-called alternative development accounts for less than 20% of President Clinton's original $1.3 billion Plan Colombia package, and even less in President Bush's revised $2 billion Andean Initiative plan. Instead, the core of the U.S. plan rests on spraying defoliant over coca cultures to destroy them, mostly in the south of Colombia.
The Colombian government, supported by the United States government, does use eradication and aerial fumigation as a drug eradication process.
From December 2000 to the 22nd of January, they started the fumigations in 5 municipalities of the Putumayo. And according to the information we were given by the Colombian government and also by the U.S., in this month and a half of fumigations, 74,000 acres were fumigated, and the result was that a satellite picture taken 1 month later showed that the coca production had actually increased.
The fact is that in this last year, coca production has gone up 11%. It hasn't gone down, it's gone up 11%. So it's not working.
Focusing on the drug producer is a recipe for failure for reasons that you should have learned in Economics 101. Look, a peasant in Putumayo or someplace like that makes the coca paste, can sell a kilo of coca paste for about $1,000. Now that kilo of coca paste gets turned into cocaine that's sold on U.S. streets gram for gram for more than $100,000, but let's say $100,000. Now imagine that a U.S. spray program does such a good job that the price of coca paste triples to $3,000. All you've done is you've reduced the profit of the middleman from $99,000 to $97,000. That is not success by any measure.
We're a simple people in the United States. We like simple formulas.
The main problem behind this method is that it is a way to just feel good in the end, to keep a clear conscience and be able to say, in the US, something is being done. Coca leaves are being fumigated in Latin America.
The important topic is, what right do the United States have to do anything in Colombia? Well, answer, it has as much right as China has to do something in the United States, namely zero. I mean, for example, does Colombia have a right to bomb Kentucky and North Carolina? That's where they produce the most lethal drugs in the world. I mean, the number of people who die from tobacco is, last figures I looked at, was about 25 times as high as from all drugs combined. But no one believes that other countries have a right to carry out fumigation in North Carolina and Kentucky. And that would be considered outrageous, even if it did work.
This May has pretty much marked the official failure of Plan Colombia, with Colombia's decision to seek out other ways to combat cocoa production, citing health concerns as the main reason for this decision. However, the truth is that the main reason why the plan is being halted is because of the current method of aerial spraying and how it's not effective in combating the production and trafficking of cocoa and its byproducts. Cocoa is essentially too tough of a crop for the pesticides to be effective while keeping the strength of the pesticides under a serious harming dose to humans. Other methods have since been proposed, such as hand spraying the plants, but no suggestions have really taken strong footing in the debate. Although hand spraying the plants would be effective, there's too much danger associated with sending people into drug trafficker-controlled land in order to hand spray the crops.